Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Heather Denniston. This is the Junk You Should Know show that airs every week on Friday, noon PST on the Well Fit and Fed Facebook page. And we live forever on the Well Fit and Fed YouTube channel. So if you've not gone over there, go over there and subscribe. Today on the Junk Show, we are talking about the power of unbecoming. The concept that maybe we need to become less to become more. Maybe we need to release things in order to grow. So I am excited to hear your thoughts on that. When it's just me on the show, you guys become my interview guests. And so I look forward to some interaction today and some questions. And let's go ahead and get started. But we can't start before we give a shout out to our sponsor, The Change Cave. The Change Cave is a 12-module online learning institute for women over 40. The Change Cave inspires first steps and ignites passion toward wellness aspirations that when we try to do this stuff on our own, it doesn't happen. So we have mindset classes. We have newscasts that come out every week. We have a fierce group of like-minded wellness warriors in a private, exclusive Facebook group. We have expert presenters coming all the time to present to us, and we have wonderful content, interactive PDF style, with lots of videos, lots of tutorials, and we learn and we learn and we learn foundational principles in wellness. So for $29.99 a month, you can join. It's cancelable at any time. It's a no-brainer. And let us help you get to your wellness goals. So when you come on, please tell me where you're from. And I would love to know if you have ever unbecome. Meaning, have you ever shed something, released something so that you could move forward? That's where we're going to start. So I want to read a little excerpt. I was doing a bunch of research for this, and the first thing I came up with, of course, was the famous quote from Michelangelo, which I am going to brutalize. And goes something along the lines of, he never created anything. He revealed his masterpieces, meaning they were already in existence. He had to just chip away the stuff that was in the way so that the angel or the sculpture could be revealed. I love that because I feel like we are like that. We are works of art, and we spend so much time, even in the Change Cave, we focus a lot on goals, on adding great fitness and great food, on mindfulness. We focus a lot on adding some things, setting goals, but we also need to spend time talking about what to let go of. So this quote comes from a famous editor, Niels Parker, and this was written in 2013. And he says, I edit books for a living. Actually, I edit manuscripts until they become books. He says, before they get to me, most manuscripts are essentially a collection of strong ideas and great stories that have been suffocated by authorial self-doubt, insecurity, and bias. His job, or my job, as the editor, is to clear all of that away and expose the greater truths that sit at the core of these stories. I shape the words around the mold created by their intent so that ideas may come to life like they already do in the minds of the creators. The process is very much like a sculptor's, an artisan's body, chipping away at the rock diligently and purposefully until the image reveals itself. The end. That demonstrates that whole concept of unbecoming, that this editor takes this manuscript that the author probably doesn't even realize is filled with insecurity, authorial self-doubt, and bias. And through chipping away at that, the masterpiece is revealed. So I love that as a place to start. So let's just dive right in. I have been noodling this concept of unbecoming, and to be quite frank, I was a little anxious about talking about it live because I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around it. So I went on a long walk yesterday, and I noodled and I noodled, and I came up with 3 concepts of unbecoming: hats, highways, and hearts. And those of you that know me know I love alliteration. I love me some alliteration. So hats, hearts, and highways. That's how you can remember it. So starting with hats, I want you to listen very closely. No. No. Not, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't think I can. Or, I wish I could, but no, it's just no. I find that as women, there are women that I meet, and I'm sure myself included, that our potential is diluted by the amount of roles we insist we play. Our potential is diluted by the amount of roles we insist we play. We have to get so good at no. I remember somebody talking about our agendas back when everybody had paper agendas and saying, if you don't passionately, violently, vehemently, intentionally protect open space in your calendar, it will be filled. It's a virus. Scheduling and stuff and people wanting things from you is going to press in. So if we don't exercise really strong boundaries around the roles that we play, then we can be way too preoccupied, way too distracted to realize our own potential. It might be, as far as roles, it might be certain roles that have been thrust on you, or roles that you took on when you didn't have clear boundaries. These are hard to revisit, and it's actually so much easier to rip the Band-Aid off at the beginning and do not commit when you know you need to protect yourself from that. So that is hats. How many hats are you wearing? Do you need to take a hard look at each of those roles and see if you need to shift, change, or release it? That's number one. Number two, highways. This is about course correction. I love the quote. Again, I'm paraphrasing. No amount of time, resources, or money is going to justify staying on a course that no longer serves you. How many of us have done that though? But I spent so much money on it. But I've already put so much time into it. I'm so far along in the process, right? Sometimes we need to peel it back and shift course. I know when I quit brick and mortar practice in chiropractic, I had more than half a dozen people say to me, but you spent so much time becoming a chiropractor and you've had this practice for so long, how can you just walk away? And I just thought, oh, just because I've invested that and I've spent that time isn't a justification to stay on a course that's no longer right for me. So shifting, course correcting, however you want to talk about it, that's another hard place to look. Because sometimes in the case of a relationship ending, in the case of a job ending, you have come to identify with that. And you have, it has become in ways a part of you. We're going to talk about that in Hearts. And so those course corrections can be really uncomfortable, but I have yet to meet somebody who made it, like the more massive the course correction, the happier the person seems. I met a guy yesterday who was a commodities trader in Chicago, and now he works out of his home as a Feldenkrais practitioner, massage, for lack of a better term. It's not massage, but talk about a massive course correction and the amount of pushback, resistance that he probably got from family, friends, etc. But this guy is so happy. So thinking about course correction. Finally, hearts. Boom. Identity. What do we identify with? In an exercise that I did on this, we drew a pie chart, a circle, for lack of a better term, and we divided it up into all the roles. Or not all the identities we had, not roles, identities. Who are you? When somebody describes you, how do they describe your identity? And how do you identify yourself? And things come out like wife, mother, strong person, good friend, funny, runner, anything can kind of become part of your identity if you identify with it long enough. Your brain actually connects to it. And the issue with that is because when pieces of the pie get removed, when you electively or not electively lose part of your identity, you can see that that pie is no longer complete. And it can be very, very uncomfortable to lose pieces of your pie. I know a good example during the exercise that I did, we talked about a woman who was a single mother who lost her son. He died. And she said, I don't even know who I am anymore. Am I even a mother? That's an extreme example. But we come to identify with certain things, and at the point we identify with them, they become difficult to lose. So obviously that one is a difficult one to lose. But another example was a woman was thought as the funny person, the funny one in the room. But she realized that most of the time she was being funny by making fun of other people. And that was no longer aligned with who she was. So she stopped doing it. So people, oh, you're not funny anymore. So she had to release that part of her identity and let go of it and unbecome this funny person because of the way she was being funny. So identities can be thrust on you as well. They can be pushed on you by teachers, by parents, by partners, by friends. I think a good example of that is, well, I'll use my example. So when I was young, I was social, and it was mistaken as that I was an extrovert. So my parents and my family and my friends would put me in extroverted situations all the time, and I identified with being an extrovert. I didn't really understand how I couldn't be an extrovert based on the fact I liked to be social. And over time, over years, I developed an anxiety condition. And I think that anxiety condition directly related to the fact I was an introvert who liked to socialize. And I didn't realize as an introvert, I had different needs than an extrovert. I needed alone time to process. I needed alone time to refuel. Although I loved being with people, it took energy. It didn't give energy to me like it does for extroverts. So I was wondered why I was drained after social situations. So that's a good example of an identity that was thrust on me that I realized no longer served me anymore. So I passionately released the idea of being an extrovert. And I had to talk my husband into the idea that I was an introvert. And once I put those pieces together for him, he's like, yeah, you are always tired after, hi, Hillary. Yeah, you are always tired after social events. And yeah, you do have to process by yourself. He got it. But I had since very young been kind of labeled with being an extrovert. So another way that we might need to unbecome is how do we release identities that we've either identified ourselves with that no longer serve us, or that others have identified us with that don't resonate with us anymore. And those can be hard to let go of, but definitely worth looking at. And let me tell you guys, hey, Cynthia, let me tell you, I'm not providing solutions. I'm just giving you a sandbox to play in, kind of stir the sand around, make you think about these things. So another, some examples of identities that may be thrust on you are things like you're sweet, you're not sexy. You're a good doer, but you're not a leader. You aren't good at, you should stick with, you are not smart enough to start, you are too old for, you're not sporty, and you're a type B, not a type A. These are identities that perhaps were given to you at a very young age that maybe no longer serve you. So definitely worth thinking about. Hey, whoever else just joined. When you join, I would love to know any part, past, present, or future, where unbecoming resonates with you. So we have talked about 3 areas of unbecoming. The first is hats, roles we play, roles where we dilute our potential by trying to do too many different types of hat wearing. Number 2 is highways, so course correction, where we realize that staying on a course to justify the amount of time, resources, or money that we've put into it is the definition of insanity. So course correction might be a way of unbecoming. And finally, hearts, identities that have either been thrust on us by well-meaning people, or that we've identified ourselves with for a period of time that just no longer resonates. So I would love you to know your ideas around unbecoming. And if you want to drop me a private email, I'd love to start a conversation. If you feel brave enough to put it in the comments section below, please do. I would also love to start a conversation there. And I want you to kind of be thinking about this. I know I am. I've been thinking about this whole idea of unbecoming for some time. And as I said at the beginning, I was anxious about this today because it's kind of a tough subject. It's not an easy one to say, I need to release a job or a husband or a role that I played for a long time or a part of my identity that is deeply intertwined and it would affect other people if I released it. So on that, I want you to be thinking about that, Hillary, retirement and starting a new business. Good for you. Yes, that's good. I love that. Retirement is a type of unbecoming because there are people in your lives who identified you with being a nurse or being a chiropractor or being a teacher. And what are you now, right? Final tip. See, I wasn't going to give you any tips, but I am going to give you this one because this one's really helpful. This one just kind of came from this curable program that I'm doing on chronic pain. It's not an idea that they came up with. It's an idea from meditation from many, many years back. And that is not holding things too closely when it comes to our identity, because bits and pieces of our identity can shift and change and disappear like that. And if we are too deeply connected and we don't just kind of let it float around us and through us, and we stake everything on that, that can be a very difficult and tricky road. I have people in my life going through very, very difficult relationship situations where in some cases it might end up going like this. And the more you identified yourself as that person's partner and not your own person, the harder it is to find your way in this new landscape. Okay. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Next week, we have the amazing Allison from Curable, the chronic pain program I've been referencing the last few weeks because I've been deep into it. And she's going to come and talk to us about how to overcome pain, chronic pain or chronic conditions with the mind-body connection, talking about brain science, brain training, education in brain science, meditation, all sorts of wonderful new science that's coming out. So do join us next week for that. And if you are catching this in replay, I love you just as much as the live people, but I do love you guys when you come and join me live. I love the interaction. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you enjoy whatever you have planned and go be well.